They had no idea they were posing for their own funeral photograph. December 1929. 10 days before Christmas. Charlie Lawson did something he'd never done before. He loaded his wife Fanny and all 7 of their children into his truck and drove them 20 miles to Winston-Salem. He bought them all new clothes. New dresses for the girls, new suits for the boys, new outfits for him and Fanny. Then he took them to a photography studio and had this portrait made. For a tobacco farmer in 1929, especially one who just lived through the stock market crash 2 months earlier, this was an extravagance. An expense that made no sense, unless you knew what he was planning. By the time those church bells stopped ringing on Christmas afternoon, 7 members of the Lawson family would be dead. And the man who killed them, the father who dressed them, photographed them, and systematically executed them, would take his own life without ever explaining why. This is the story of one of America's most haunting family annihilations. A crime so incomprehensible that nearly a century later, we're still searching for answers in the silence left behind. The family lived in Germantown, North Carolina. Stokes County. A community where everyone knew everyone. Where families worked the tobacco fields from sunrise to sunset. Where Christmas was the one day of the year when work stopped and families gathered. Charles Davis Lawson, Charlie to everyone who knew him, was born into this world in 1886. In 1911, at age 25, he married Fanny Manring. She was young, hardworking, and by all accounts, devoted. Together, they built a family. 8 children in total, though their 3rd son, William, died of illness in 1920 at just 6 years old. Marie, 17, pretty, intelligent, her whole life ahead of her. Arthur, 16, strong, responsible, his father's right hand on the farm. Carrie, 12, described by neighbors as sweet-natured and kind. Mabel, 7, a student who proudly introduced herself in class each morning. James, 4, just a little boy, barely old enough to understand the world. Raymond, 2, a toddler still learning to speak in full sentences. And Mary Lou, just 4 months old, an infant who would never know anything beyond her mother's arms. The Lawsons had worked as sharecroppers for years, saving every penny they could. By 1927, they'd achieved what many families in their position never could. They purchased their own farm. 40 acres on Brook Cove Road. A 200-year-old cabin, too small for a family of 9, but it was theirs. Neighbors described them as hardworking, quiet, private, but not unfriendly. They were, by all outward appearances, an ordinary family. But something was wrong. In the months before Christmas 1929, Charlie Lawson complained to his doctor in Danbury about severe headaches. Insomnia. He'd suffered a head injury earlier that year. The details remain unclear, but his behavior had changed. Some who knew him said he'd become withdrawn, irritable. That there was something different in his eyes. And there were whispers. Quiet conversations between women in the community. Concerns that were spoken in hushed tones behind closed doors. Concerns about Charlie and his eldest daughter, Marie. But these were just whispers, unconfirmed rumors in a time and place where such things were never discussed openly. And then came Christmas 1929. Christmas morning dawned cold in Stokes County. Snow dusted the tobacco fields. Across North Carolina, families were gathering. Opening presents. Sharing meals. Celebrating the holiday together. At the Lawson farm, Fanny was preparing Christmas dinner. Marie had baked a cake the night before, raisins dotting the top, a small gift of sweetness for the family's Christmas celebration. Charlie Lawson told his son Arthur they would go rabbit hunting that afternoon. A Christmas tradition in many rural families. Around noon, Charlie sent Arthur into Germantown with his nephew to buy more ammunition. The shells were running low, he said. Arthur walked the 2 miles into town, expecting to return home to Christmas dinner and an afternoon hunting with his father. He never saw his family alive again. As soon as Arthur was out of sight, Charlie Lawson picked up his 12-gauge shotgun and walked to the tobacco barn. He waited. His daughters Carrie and Mabel were leaving to visit their aunt and uncle for the afternoon. They passed the barn. Charlie shot them both. But he didn't stop there. He bludgeoned them with the butt of the shotgun to ensure they were dead. Then he dragged their small bodies into the tobacco barn and placed rocks under their heads. He returned to the house. Fanny was on the porch. Some accounts say she was hanging laundry. Others say she was simply standing there, perhaps wondering where Charlie had gone. He shot his wife of 18 years. Inside the house, Marie heard the gunshot. She screamed. 4-year-old James and 2-year-old Raymond tried to hide. Charlie went room to room. He shot Marie. He hunted down James and Raymond and shot them. 4-month-old Mary Lou was crying in her cradle. He beat the infant to death. When authorities entered the home hours later, they found a scene that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Most of the words were obliterated by blood, but visitors to the crime scene could still make out 2 words: Santa Claus. Charlie Lawson had arranged each victim after killing them. He'd crossed their arms over their chests, placed pillows under their heads, closed their eyes. He'd laid them out as if they were already in their coffins. Then he walked into the woods behind the house. He found a tree. Evidence suggests he paced around it for some time, back and forth, circling. He pulled out letters he'd written to his parents. Unfinished notes found in his pockets later would read, "Nobody to blame but, and troubles can cause." Then Charlie Lawson put the shotgun under his chin and pulled the trigger. Arthur Lawson returned from town around 3:30 that afternoon, his pockets full of shotgun shells. As he approached the farm, he saw neighbors gathered. People running. Chaos. Someone had heard the gunshots. Someone had investigated. And word had spread like wildfire through the small community. By the time police arrived, dozens of people had already descended on the Lawson farm. They found Carrie and Mabel in the tobacco barn, rocks under their heads. They found Fanny on the porch. They found Marie, James, Raymond, and baby Mary Lou inside the house. And then someone heard Arthur screaming from the woods. They found Charlie Lawson's body beneath a tree, his shotgun beside him, his dogs lying faithfully next to their dead master. 7 members of one family. Dead on Christmas Day. The story made national headlines. The New York Times ran it on the front page. Across America, people read about the well-to-do tobacco farmer who had slaughtered his family on the holiest day of the year. But the question that consumed everyone was simple. Why? Authorities immediately sought answers. Dr. Lawrence Taylor, a medical examiner, performed the autopsy on Charlie Lawson. He removed Charlie's brain and sent it to Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore for extensive analysis. Initial reports noted that Charlie's brain was relatively small and that portions appeared underdeveloped. But the comprehensive analysis found no evidence of traumatic brain injury. No tumors, no physical abnormalities that would explain what he'd done, the head injury he'd suffered months earlier. It hadn't damaged his brain in any measurable way. Several theories were made. Some pointed to financial stress. Black Tuesday, the stock market crash, had occurred just 2 months earlier in October 1929. The Great Depression was beginning, farms were failing, families were losing everything. Family annihilators often kill when they see no way out of financial ruin. In their twisted logic, they believe death is preferable to poverty or shame. It's sometimes called suicide by proxy. But Charlie Lawson had just purchased expensive new clothes for his entire family. He'd paid for professional photographs. These weren't the actions of a man on the brink of financial collapse. Others whispered about madness, divine punishment, that Charlie had simply snapped under the weight of providing for such a large family in hard times. Mental illness was poorly understood in 1929. There was no language for depression, PTSD, psychotic breaks. But even this theory felt incomplete, because of what Charlie had done after the killings. The careful arrangement of the bodies, the pillows, the crossed arms, the rocks under their heads. This wasn't the work of someone in a blind rage. This was methodical, deliberate, almost ritualistic. And then there was Marie. The rumor that surfaced in whispers after the funerals. The rumor that would remain unspoken publicly for over 60 years. In 1990, author Trudy J. Smith was researching a book about the murders. She interviewed a relative named Stella Lawson, who revealed something she'd kept secret for decades. Stella said she'd overheard conversations between Fanny Lawson and her sisters-in-law. Fanny had confided that she was concerned about an incestuous relationship between Charlie and Marie. This conversation took place before 1928, more than a year before the murders. Then, in 2006, another witness came forward. Ella May, one of Marie's closest friends, was elderly but her memory was clear. She told Smith that a few weeks before Christmas 1929, Marie had confided a terrible secret. She was pregnant. And the father of her child was her own father, Charlie Lawson. According to Ella May, both Charlie and Fanny knew about the pregnancy. If true, this would explain everything. In 1929 rural North Carolina, such a scandal would have destroyed the Lawson family socially. Charlie, likely facing public exposure and criminal charges, may have seen murder-suicide as the only way to prevent the shame from becoming public. So he preserved his family's image, bought them new clothes, had them photographed looking perfect, wholesome, respectable. And then he eliminated the evidence. But here's what we must acknowledge. There is no forensic evidence to support the pregnancy claim. Marie's body was not examined for pregnancy. No medical records exist. The story rests entirely on second-hand accounts from people remembering conversations from 60 to 70 years earlier. We cannot know for certain what drove Charlie Lawson to commit familicide on Christmas Day 1929. His notes were unfinished. His confession went unspoken. The 7 people who might have known the truth died with him. On December 28, 1929, thousands of people traveled from across North Carolina to Browder Cemetery. It was one of the largest funerals in the state's history. 8 coffins. Mother, father, and 6 children. They were buried together in a mass grave donated by a local family. Baby Mary Lou was placed in her mother's arms. Even in death, Fanny held her daughter. The headstone was enormous, bearing the names of all 8 family members. And beneath their names, an inscription. Not now, but in the coming years, it will be in a better land. We'll read the meaning of our tears, and sometime we'll understand. Arthur Lawson, 16 years old, stood at that graveside and watched his entire family be lowered into the ground. He was the only survivor, the one his father chose to spare, though Charlie never explained why. Some believe Arthur's size and strength meant he could have stopped Charlie, so the father waited until his son was gone. Others believe Charlie wanted his family name to continue, needing one son to carry it forward. Arthur inherited the farm. He tried to live a normal life. He married. He had 4 children. But in 1945, at just 31 years old, Arthur died in a motor vehicle accident. The last member of the Lawson family was gone. But the Lawson family murders didn't end with the funeral. Within weeks, Charlie's brother Marion opened the Lawson home as a tourist attraction. For 25 cents, visitors could walk through the rooms where the murders had occurred. They could see the bloodstains on the floor, the bullet holes in the walls, and they could see Marie's Christmas cake displayed in a glass case. Visitors picked at the raisins on the cake, taking them as souvenirs until Marion had to seal the cake in glass to preserve it. The dogwood tree where Charlie killed himself was stripped bare within hours. People wanted pieces of the bark as morbid keepsakes. When the family's belongings were auctioned in January 1930, the murder weapons attracted frenzied bidding. One visitor scooped Fanny's blood from the porch into a jar and kept it as a family heirloom, passing it down through generations. This is what the Lawson murders became. Not a tragedy to be grieved, but a spectacle to be consumed. In 1930, just months after the murders, a songwriter named Walter Kid Smith wrote a ballad called The Murder of the Lawson Family. The Carolina Buddies recorded it for Columbia Records. It sold over 8,000 copies, extraordinary for a hillbilly record in 1930. They all were buried in a crowded grave, while the angels watched above. Come home, my little ones, to a land of peace and love. The murders became folklore, a murder ballad sung at gatherings, a ghost story told to children. The building that once housed the funeral home where the Lawsons were embalmed is now a museum. Visitors report seeing apparitions. A young girl in white. Objects moving on their own. In 2022, Netflix featured the location in a paranormal investigation series. Today, we understand family annihilators better than we did in 1929. They are overwhelmingly white men. They often have histories of abuse and control issues. Their crimes are premeditated. They occur most often when the perpetrator has access to firearms. Charlie Lawson fits this profile almost perfectly. But understanding the psychology doesn't answer the question that haunts us. Could it have been prevented? If Fanny had confided in someone beyond her sisters-in-law, would authorities have intervened? If Marie had told someone other than her friend about an alleged pregnancy, could she have been protected? If neighbors had acted on their whispers and suspicions, would 7 lives have been saved? Sadly, we'll never know. The Browder Cemetery in Stokes County, North Carolina still exists. The massive headstone marking the Lawson family grave still stands. And those words are still there. We'll read the meaning of our tears, and sometime we'll understand. 95 years have passed since Christmas Day 1929. 95 years since Charlie Lawson dressed his family in their finest clothes, posed them for a photograph, and then systematically murdered them. 95 years since Marie, Arthur, Carrie, Mabel, James, Raymond, and baby Mary Lou were stolen from the world. And we still don't fully understand why. Theories have been proposed, books have been written, investigators have analyzed every piece of evidence. But the truth died with Charlie Lawson in those snowy woods. What the Lawson family murders remind us, what they force us to confront, is how fragile safety truly is. How the most dangerous monsters often live in our own homes. How secrets, left to fester in silence, can metastasize into unspeakable violence. The Lawsons were buried in the new clothes they wore in that photograph. Preserved in death as they appeared in that final portrait. Whole, together, a family. We'll read the meaning of our tears, and sometime we'll understand. But perhaps some meanings are not meant to be understood. Perhaps some tears have no meaning beyond the terrible fact that they must be shed. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Crimes and Consequences.